Hello! Well, it's finally here. The Yokai Watch 2 Professor Oak's challenge is finally here. I'm just as excited as you are to see this finally be seen, since it has been a little while. Just a little. Yokai Watch 2, for some background info, is the direct sequel to Yokai Watch 1. These games were released as dual releases in Japan in July of 2014 as Gonzo and Honkai, with a lot of it being based on the Yokai Watch movie. Later, a third version released in December of 2014 called Shinichi. The first two were localized to Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls in 2016, and the third version was localized to Psychic Spectres in 2017. This was continuing the success that Yokai Watch had at the time, and not only became the best-selling Yokai Watch games, but also some of the best-selling games on the 3DS. I don't want to make the intro too long than it should be, but I will say some things that are important to keep in mind for this video. Firstly, I will be playing Psychic Spectres, as I feel it would be the more interesting game choice compared to Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls. Secondly, I want to give a refresher on how this challenge is exactly structured. So to refresh on the idea of a Professor Oak's challenge in Pokemon, the goal of the challenge is to catch every Pokemon possible before each gym badge. So when this challenge is applied to Yokai Watch, you need to befriend every possible yokai before each boss. This does get wonky later on, but the gym badge replacements are the story bosses, as they are the major roadblocks in each chapter. Also, if another boss is available during the story that isn't a part of the story, I have to fight them before the mandatory story boss. I assume you all know the story to Yokai Watch 2, and while we're at it, Yokai Watch the movie, but in case you don't, here is your spoiler warning, as I will make everything as I can about the story and some later requests as detailed as possible, which includes the story and other things throughout the game. Next, I assume you watched the original video on Yokai Watch 1, but in case you didn't or don't remember, here are the rules with some new additions. 1. I must befriend every available yokai before each story boss, or boss in general, with one near impossible to predict exception later on. Yes, that shit is back. Also, repeat bosses and non-medallion bosses don't count. This was a rule in the first video that didn't really apply as much outside of the first really story boss, but it does actually matter here a lot more. 2. Glitches that give me yokai are not allowed. Glitches and exploits that speed up the process are fair game, such as date skipping and IAE. 3. No trading or use of other systems to get yokai, which means no street pass yokai. 4. Yokai cam, passwords, and QR codes are completely fair game since they don't need an internet connection or another 3DS system. That is very important right there to use these features. However, blasters and psychic blasters are not allowed for two reasons. 1. They're basically hosted on what feels like a small local server, and while you can play solo in it, I feel it kind of breaks the rules of no connections. 2. I can't get them to work on an emulator, so I can't do it either way. Fuck me then. 5. Crank-a-kai yokai are fair game. 6. DLC yokai are fair game, as they're already pre-installed without the need to play another game. 7. The save must have started in Psychic Spectres, which means no transferred saves from Bony Spirits or Fleshy Souls. And with all of that out of the way, grab yourself some wine that I know most of you can't drink, and let's jump right into it. I start my journey off by picking Nate and naming him like any sane human being would. A squared. Why? Because it's funny, and also I named him A in the first game. And it will probably be the most sane you will have seen me. Anyways, 3 mysterious yokai appear above Nate's house and make the Yokai Watch disappear before leaving. Then, after waking up, we head downstairs to go out for the day with the family, but then we make our way over to the newly introduced donut shops that correspond with the original versions of Yokai Watch 2, Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls. Then, Nate's parents argue over whether or not to choose Spirit Donuts or Soul Donuts, because that makes sense to argue about. Now normally if you're playing Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls, you would be forced to choose the one that corresponds with your game, and you may think that it matters here too, since it is the third version. However, the version exclusives for Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls, believe it or not, don't appear in a save file directly made in Psychic Spectres. So literally, all of those exclusives are just gone from the run, which does mean that the choice doesn't matter. So we're going to choose Soul Donuts. We're told to go home where we can pick up the bug net. Now normally I would say that this will be very useful for some yokai later. However, this is probably the most useless the bug net has ever been. The reason being that we won't be catching any bugs past the tutorial. Speaking of which, we can catch bugs just like in the first game's tutorial. However, we actually have a variety, which is actually pretty cool. After spending time with Nate's friends, Nate goes to check out the Memory Store, yet another new addition to Springdale. If you haven't played 2, there are a handful of new stores that are pretty important, as they either have exclusive items like food and equipment, which, yes, there is a lot of new equipment items. We spot a watch in the store that looks very familiar, and the store owner, Knick-Knack, lets us buy it for $1. But then he lets us use that dollar on the gacha machine outside. We crank it Soulja Boy style, and out comes a yokai that we all know and love, Whisper. Because yes, Nate's memories, as well as his yokai friends, all vanished from the yokai before. Whisper reminds Nate that yokai do indeed exist, and then we remember our good friend Jibanyan. We go over to his hangout spot where, just like in the first game, he gets hit by a truck. After he slowly walks back, we reunite and get his yokai medal. But remember though, we only count the friends once we get the medallion. Then we run back over to the Memory Store and is gone. Ah yes, I love it when my buildings just disappear for the day. Then we're about to head home when Whisper realizes that there's a yokai nearby. We find Bushido in the garbage and summon Jibanyan to help. Once beating Bushido, he hands us his yokai medal and Whisper hands us the medallion, letting us add 2 to the total. We return home to see Whisper pulling some kind of goofy ass face, cause of course he's going to do that. He made this face because he remembered that he needs to tell us about the Crankakai in Mount Wildwood. So we head up to Mount Wildwood, where yes, we get an area card now. I'm actually pumped for that. Here we can attempt to go up the stairs only to be blocked by a blockade. Once beating him, we head over to the Crankakai, where Whisper hands us one of the many new coins in this game, the Selecta coin. This coin is one of 2 coins that lets you choose a yokai directly instead of having it up to pure chance. Those yokai being Ruffraff, Mangy Mutt, and Tattletale. However, this coin is one of a kind. You cannot get another Selecta coin, meaning the decision here locks the other 2 completely. Speedrunners might be upset at this choice, but hear me out. I'm choosing Mangy Mutt here. Now, normally, Ruffraff would be my choice, as he is the strongest and just is the better yokai overall in speedrunning battles. However, there are 2 problems with this idea. For starters, I'm playing the American release of Psychic Spectres, which means that the Infinite Attack exploit, or IAE for short, is patched from this version, so he won't be attacking constantly. The second reason is that Ruffraff has the highest evolution level out of the 3. That wouldn't be a problem normally, except X-Porbs are very limited in this run, which I'll explain why later, meaning that it would take a lot more X-Porbs or a higher tier X-Porb just to preserve some. So Mangy Mutt is the play here, since I need a solid attacker for the early game, and Tattletale doesn't really do that well. Now we can get the remaining coins that guarantee us yokai. But before we do, here's my stance on the legality of it for this run. I'm basically treating it like how some people treat Pokemon that require another save from a different game to get, because all you need is a photo for these. I'm calling it fair game for that reason. Anyways, after talking to Mr. E, we can use the Selecta Coin Plus to get Komasan and Snoko, but for the last one, to see the capsule, take Whisper and Jibanyan and combine them together to get Buchinyan. After Jibanyan and Whisper walk back to us after Buchinyan disappears, we can learn of a new mechanic to pan out the playtime in this game. Key quests. Key quests are standard requests that you're required to do to continue the story. The first one can easily be done thanks to the available brown cicadas at Triangle Park during the bug catching quest. After that, we head over to Springdale Elementary, where Matt doesn't believe that the other team scored the goal. We defeat the Nosers that are inspiriting him to finish this request. I know those get repetitive and boring, but whenever they appear, I'll make them quick unless they are very important for the challenge. The last quest is in the Every Mart, where they are doing worse compared to the other Every Marts. Not gonna lie, that's surprising considering how there's an Every Mart that you literally have to go out of your way for, and that takes like a full minute to get to with Mirapo warping, and it provides literally nothing different from this one. So the fact that this one isn't doing well is very surprising. Anyways, we look outside and Whisper points out another new mechanic in this game. Baffle boards. Baffle boards are essentially quizzes that once solved give you a certain benefit on the map. In order to complete this one though, we need Hungrams, who we don't have. But why not check out the fridge at Nate's house, cause why not? Turns out, there's a Hungram stealing my shit! Cause of course there is for story purposes. Hungram says that he wants a plum rice bowl, so we give him one and we get his medal in turn. After summoning him to the baffle board, he influences people to come into the Every Mart and possibly damages someone's health afterwards. Turns out, he actually got so many customers, the store now has everything half off, which is actually pretty cool and very useful. After finishing the key quest, we head home to find Nate's parents actually stop their argument by buying both donuts. Why didn't you do that before? After going to sleep, we learn the crows are stealing people's shit in Breezy Hills. That totally won't be important at all. Oh, and you know what? It just so happens that we have to see Eddie over there. Of course we do. So we head over to Gorpon Park in Breezy Hills, where Eddie shows off his Mega Watch before a crow just snags that shit, because of course it would happen. We run over to the bridge near the riverbank where the crow drops it onto thin air? As it turns out, while Kappa is sleeping as he's being dragged down the current, and the Mega Watch fell on top of him. But before we can continue with that, let's befriend some yokai, since we can do that now. Starting off in the catwalk, I can get Panzel, Hisfit, and Dumbcat. In the shady back alley, I can get 3 Peck Pockets and Negativus. Do I make the joke again? Nah. In the uptown trees, I can get Caden and Snaggly. In the sewers, I got Droplet, Cough Cough, and Slush. At the uptown riverbank, I can get Cricky. Under the cars, I can get Squeaky. And in the desolate lane, I can get No Way. Already, this is looking like quite a bit, but remember, we still have a bunch of other stuff available right now. Now let's do the Breezy Hills encounters. Under the cars, I can get Dimmy. In the trees, I can get Wazat. And in the grass, I can get Dazabel. Also, while we're at it, we're going to solve this baffle board for Hainomi. This will be useful for later. Now, let's continue the story. We reveal Yoink, who stole the Mega Watch and tries to run off with it, only to be chased down into the catwalk, where, after being beaten, he throws the Mega Watch right into the sewers. We run down there to reveal Swelton, who found the Mega Watch and wants to keep it. After beating him, he hands it back to us and gives us his yokai medal, adding him to the total. Afterwards, we get access to using QR codes and passwords, which is very needed in this section in particular. After returning home, Nate realizes that he left his summer homework in school, so he heads over there, where he asks Mr. Johnson for it, and bro just straight up hands him the entire keys to the school. So when we head upstairs, we can claim the missing homework, but then one of the many goats in this game appears and tries to attack us. Turns out, Baku, which yes, I was saying it wrong in the first video, oops, my bad, hands over his yokai medal, and this is also a very important one that I'll explain later. Afterwards, Nate leaves school only to see a skeleton-like figure on the school roof. We run all the way home and get to play a minigame where we eat. No, seriously, that's it, we eat. This is one of the few minigames that are new additions, but this one is the most important one, because this minigame has a reward that I just so happen to get first try. The Love Packed Rice Ball, which will be very useful later. After sleeping, we now get told to go to Timers and More to upgrade the Yokai Watch. However, this gives us yet another new part of the map, Blossom Heights. We go to Timers and More only to get info from Detective Holden about Yo criminals, which changed and became utterly useless to us now. So after that, we check the entrance only to see that Mr. Goodsight is out for now, so we head over to the Wayfarer Manor to see where he went, and we learn from there that he went to the museum. He also explains Street Pass, which I'm going to just reiterate this again, the Wayfarer Manor is banned due to the access of Street Pass. So we head over to Gourd Pond Museum and see Mr. Goodsight looking at the old Springdale exhibits. In the meantime, we gotta complete key quests, because of course. However, 2 of these are very necessary in this challenge. After going downstairs, a lady gets scared and runs away. Following her into the vault would reveal that she's a scientist named Diana Gately, who is studying a new mechanic in this game, the Gates of Whimsy. Now this is something that is absolutely painful. A Gate of Whimsy is an alternate dimension that I think is considered an illusion? Basically, these dimensions are areas you would know of, and in the tutorial it's in Banter Bakery. These gates will have different challenges to complete, but I'll talk about those different ones later. But for now, we just need to beat this one, which is a battle room. All you need to do is beat the yokai in them, and you get gate globes, which I'll explain in a sec. After leaving, we get sent to the middle of the map, which unlike the first game, trophies are useless to us, as they give us literally no benefits this time. Rather, they act like achievements, which is definitely a whole lot better than key items. Anyways, we go back to the vault and hand over the gate globe. This gate globe makes the door in there go from 5 to 4, which is very important. Now it's time to explain gate globes. Basically, gate globes are an item that let you access a secret boss in the game, but it is generally resorted to the post-game. I'll bring this back up when it's necessary to. Anyways, that's one of the key quests done. So now it's time to head over to the community center, where Mr. Stickler teaches us about how to battle and trade, which we won't be doing. Before completing the last key quest though, it's about time we got some yokai on Blossom Heights. In the tucked away lot, I can get Ache and Lion, and in the hidden side street, I can get Popsicle. So now we can head up to Shogun Temple, where we can accept Mr. Zen's request of befriending Ache, and in turn, he not only gives us the buff weights, but also lets us use yokai. Keep in mind, this is all before the first boss. If you don't remember, fusing is one of the 2 ways of evolution, with the other just simply being leveling up yokai. Fusing requires either a yokai or an item to combine any of those into any combination into a new yokai or item. This does let us get new yokai, but like tradition, I will be saving all fusions and evolutions until the end of each section. Anyways, I can go to the secret byway where I can get Snotsalong and Legly. Lastly, I can go to the bamboo in front of the old mansion to get Katana. Now let's get some other encounters in Mount Wildwood. In the bamboo, I can get Sandmet and Terrapotta. Now, this area actually got a massive expansion alongside the rugged path in Breezy Hills, which is neat but very forgettable. In the mountain trail area, I can get Leodoni, and in the trees at the Jumbo Slider, I can get Boohoo. After starting the request with Alex's Wildlife Club to get them settled in, I can go to Mr. Goodsight, who says that he needs his special medicine. So we go to yet another new store in this game, Chlorophyll, to get the medicine. After giving it to him, he says that he left his trusty screwdriver in What a Find in Shopper's Row, which is only open at night, but thanks to Baku, I can go there at night, which is pretty sweet. Baku is the real MVP of Yokai Watch. After letting Baku take my place, I can make my way to the next part of Springdale, Shopper's Row. Before continuing the story though, I want to get some yokai right now. In the shopping street Narrows, I can get 3 Seppa and 2 Wiglin. Next, I can go to the Tranquility Apartments, where there is this Cough and a Ruffraff arguing over who is spikier. I wonder who is spikier. The guy that is spiky, or the guy that will spike your drink? This decision is actually really important, as choosing Ruffraff allows him to merge with Jibanyan and get Badinyan. Yes, they removed the Thornyan and Badinyan fusions, which already made perfect sense, and instead chose to make them based on decisions that you might not even know is a choice that locks the other. This is by far one of the dumbest things in this game. Anyways, Now we can go to what to find to pick up the screwdriver. Once we leave though, we get reminded of what happens when you go out when you're not supposed to. Terror time. Yes, they did make these cutscenes completely unskippable in this game too, because of course they did. Now, I'm just going to ignore terror time for now. I will make sure you know literally everything about terror time much later, mark my word. But for now, we can clearly have Gargaros teleport behind us in the cutscene and escape terror time. After that, we can go back to Timers and More and return the screwdriver and have Mr. Goodsight finally upgrade the Yokai Watch to rank D. Just as a reminder though, every time we upgrade the Yokai Watch, more yokai become available in locations we've already been to. But not only is this a given, and this now applies to more than just search spots. This now applies to overworld spots, which is different from the last game, which I think is actually neat. Anyways, it's hunting time. In the old mansion, I can get Lafalata, Helmsman, Slice and Rice, and Dismeralda. Now, before we continue yokai hunting, you can actually sleep here. There's nothing stopping you from waiting to fight Gutsy. In fact, you can actually fight him during the day, so it doesn't matter what time of day it is, just like Slimamander in the first game. So, here's how these next encounters are going to work. I'm going to say a part of the map, and I'm just going to list the spot and yokai I got from it. In Blossom Heights, I can get Signable in the telephone poles, and Komajiro under the cars. In Uptown Springdale, I got Minimo under the cars, Jumbelina in the grass alongside a treasure map for later, Walcapla in the riverbank, and Dushu and Fish Pickable in the sewers. In Mount Wildwood, I got Enterfly in the trees. In Shoppers Row, I got Minochi and Grubsnitch in the grass, Dewana under the porches, and Rith in the riverbank. In Breezy Hills, I got Rockabelly in the flowers and Nosers under the cars. Now that was a lot. Just so we're clear, we have almost full access to the entirety of Springdale before the first boss, which is surprising, considering how in the first game we had like one area, maybe, per chapter. For reference, Slimamander had 2 whole areas before fighting him. Now, you may think we're done with basic encounters, but we still have a lot more to go. Remember yokai spots? They're back and are actually needed yet again. In Gourdpond Museum, there is a Draggy right in front of the T-Rex exhibit which you can befriend. This one, however, is guaranteed, so luckily we just need a soft reset for the befriend chance. Now, if you watched the first POC, you would have noticed a goat missing at the start. That's because we can't guarantee a befriend anymore, unlike the first game. But luckily, they give you Badignon, which basically sweeps completely for free. At the crosswalks, I can get the goat of Yokai Watch, Snartle. He will be the main attacker for the rest of the game. He even got buffed in this game, so he's even better. He's going to be very useful for getting the next yokai, but first, I need to go over stuff with the Gate of Whimsies. So, you know of the battle rooms, but there is one more room that is very important. The Expert Rooms. These rooms host 1 yokai each, however, they're a high rank and higher level yokai to fight. Luckily, having both Badignon and Snartle can make any of the expert yokai defeated quite quickly. The best way to go about these is that you can soft reset for a specific room. One of these rooms is only in Breezy Hills for some reason though, so keep that in mind. In the Gate of Whimsies, I can get Tanbo, Armsman, and Slackaslash. Now, what level do you think Tanbo and Slackaslash are after befriending them at this point in the game? Level 44. Yes, you can get a level 44 yokai without even trying before the first boss of the game. For reference, Snartle was gotten at around level 17. That's insane. Now, when I said that there's yokai remaining, you probably thought of the school first, since that has yokai roaming around at any time until beating the first story boss. And you would be right. In Springdale Elementary, I can get 4 Mochismo, Mimikin, and Blockade. So basically, all of the regular encounters are done. Afterwards, I went to the Lambert post office to get the necessary fusion items, coins, and other items that are only available as passwords. Now it's time for what people think is the most brutal part of these challenges. For the first game, maybe, but this is nowhere near as hard as some of the other things in this challenge are. The thing I'm referring to is the good old Crank-a-kai. So, the Crank-a-kai is back with even more goods in the loot table. You can get the coins necessary in this section by either passwords like before, or QR codes at Pickleston Bank. So here's how everything is going to work. I'm going to say a coin, and then say the yokai I got from them, and then repeat that process over and over again until we're done. In the red coins, I can get Benkei, Quaken, Tsushiyama, Zero, and Cruncha. In the yellow coins, I can get Quit, Ilu, Infor, Casanono, Signaton, and Frosttail. In the orange coins, I can get Tough Ant, Mad Mountain, Garuma, 4 Caselli's III, Walden, Endurofant, and Golden Young. In the pink coins, I can get Naked Speed, Frostina, 2 Schmoopy, Pookevil, Skelabella, and Demona. In the green coins, I can get Lodo, Happy Air, Raillight, Old Fortune, Roland, Reverse Set, Doubles, and Anti-Heart. In the blue coins, I can get Hydabat, Yoink, Come On, Snow Betty, Null, and Count Cavity. In the purple coins, I can get Chatterley, Gush, Papa Windbag, Ben Tover, Grumples, Insomni, Foiletta, and Eterna. In the light blue coins, I can get Heal, 2 Flushback, Spimp, Babylon, Dragon, Psynake, Tunatic, Slitherif, and Shadow Venoct. In the special coins, I can get Toiletta and Chansey. And that's everything. Right? Well, there are the other variants of coins to cover. Not only do we have all of the original coins alongside 5 stars and specials, we also have a slew of other coins. And yes, those pesky play coins do return. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to rant about specific coins after the entire list of yokai from all of the coins in total. In any of the excitement coins, I can get a pelican, and So Sorry. In the bird excellent coins, I can get Megasis and Daze. And in the flower excitement coins, I can get Dragonyan and Tyrat. In the Yo mystery coins, I can get Ilor and Bruff. In the Kai mystery coins, I can get Unikirin and Hainomi. In the Sun mystery coins, I can get Taigappa. In the Mon mystery coins, I can get Mermother and Donchan. In all of the Traveler's coins, I can get Grumpus Khan, Slumberhog, Pantrapupil, Samaril, Takoya Kid, Dunkasand, Sumodon, Whateverist, and Happy Kane. In the cheerful coins, I can get King Mara, Gleam, and Scarasol. In the glitzy coins, I can get Uber Geeko, Arachnia, and Sheen. And lastly, in the play coins, I can get Robonyan, Belfry, and Kapunki. Holy shit, what a grind. This alone took a lot of time to get. Not to mention, some of these coins are very limited. For example, there is a limited amount of all of these coins at the end except the play coins. The worst one to lose by far would be the Flower Excitement coins, as Tyrat is only available through those. With the others, they are unbelievably common through them, yet this is how they go about it. This is honestly ridiculous. If you wanted to do this challenge, I wouldn't blame you for save editing the coins in. This is just stupid. And then on top of all of that, we have play coins making a return. I know you can shake your 3DS for it. I just didn't mention that in the first video. But just imagine how long it takes to get everything. All of the rare yokai are about 1%. When you add on how many times you have to crank, and then it takes 10 play coins per crank, that's just ridiculous. The good news about the Crank-a-kai is that you have the chance to get more than 3 cranks a day. A new feature is that you can see in your menu how many times you can use the Crank-a-kai that day. It can go as high as 30, which is really neat. Also, remember Nomi? If you remember before, he has a baffle board in Breezy Hills, and this baffle board allows you to get an extra crank every single day. Just pray that you can crank one. Luckily, I got everything through this hell, but still. After what we in the business like to call hell, I can reveal the legendary Gilgaros in the medallion. Yes, he is the first legendary yokai yet again. Then it's time to get more stuff done at Springdale Elementary. For starters, climbing the pole 4 times will let us get a fantastic yokai later on. Then, I can get Machunyan in the gym, Rabanyan F in the lab, and Sailornyan in the music room. That's about all we need to do at school right now. But, we can start another terrible grind. Gate Globe grinding. Remember in that quest that we had to get a Gate Globe for? Yeah, well, I've been doing Gate of Whimsies as I see them and grinded for them for a good amount of time, just to get enough. Going back to the vault, we can insert 4 Gate Globes in order to open this special Gate of Whimsy. And do you know what is behind it? More Gate of Whimsies! And do you know how many Gate Globes you need before fighting the first story boss? 105. Yes, you need 105 Gate Globes in order to finish this section. And on average, you get about 2 to 3 per door. So that means that grinding this takes forever. Luckily, I've been doing these since the start of that key quest. But still, this is ridiculous. Anyways, in these special doors, there are challenges that you can complete with special yokai exclusive here. So, in the first 2 doors, I got Elu in the 10 door, and B3NK1 in the 20 door. I paused so that way I could grind some more. Afterwards, I finished Alex's request to see a rich lady who owns this hideout and gives a gold keycard. Now, I should mention what this is used for. Remember All Evil? Yeah, so instead of flipping levers across the sewers, we now have to find 3 keycards in order to open his door. These will be useful for later. Then, I went back to grinding the remaining 2 Gate of Whimsy doors, getting Lead Balloon in the 30 door, and 2 Cubistalls, Hurchin, and Merkel in the 40 door. Next up is the Red Box, which is an item that our random guy gives you at night, randomly. Basically, this item can do one of a few things and hosts an exclusive yokai, Cerberus. After getting him, I accidentally stumbled upon a yokai that I thought would be really hard to get. Snottle. Snottle? Not Snartle. Snottle spawns on certain spots on the map randomly, which does include spots that we can't access. Luckily, we got him in a gym for the school, which is pretty cool. Now, Snottle is incredibly useful for befriending later on, so I will keep him trained. The next yokai to get is an old friend. Almi is available very early, even before Shopper's Row, as you don't have to interact with the bookstore at all this time. After 20 days, we can get Almi. Now, before we continue, there are still some items that I need to pick up. First things first, I went to the Jungle Hunter to get the fusion items available. This is actually super easy, as we have dolls for days from the Crank-a-kai, so buying fish at the fish place is super easy. Next, I just so happened to roll a day where the Sinister Whetstone is available in Candy Stop, so using any lottery tickets I had was definitely worthwhile. This can be reset through sleeping in game, which is definitely nice. And yes, we can gamble more than we can gamble. And just like that, we have finished getting every single regular befriend except evolutions and fusions. Right? Well, earlier I said that there is something that I was saving until the end of this section. That thing was Terror Time, if you recall correctly. To be fair, I said many things, but I'm referring to Terror Time here. Now, they changed Terror Time drastically. This time around, it is completely and utterly stupid with how it works. Terror Time changed from a format where you find the exit and there are a few chests with good items and the Oni is beatable for the medallion here, all the way to an entirely different game mode. If Nate gets caught by an Oni, you lose on the spot. All of the Leodoni and Suspicioni got replaced with a new enemy called Patrol Eye, who actively move around the map and look for you. And instead of chests, we have Oni orbs. They are scattered around the map alongside being dropped by the Oni. Also, when an Oni is beaten, they don't get added to the medallion, so it's okay for us to do this here. But you may be asking, how do you beat an Oni? Well, each one has a set HP value every single time. Gargoyles has 1000, Ogrelas has 1500, and Orcanos has 3000. Each also drop a set value of Oni orbs every single time. Gargoyles drops 50, Ogrelas drops 100, and Orcanos drops 200. And why would you need to collect Oni orbs? Well, picture this. Imagine the Crank-a-kai, but you have to finish Terror Time to get one single spin to maybe get what you want. That is how Terror Time essentially works in this game. The Oni Crank-a-kai is the Terror Time exclusive variant of the Crank-a-kai. Yes, this version has multiple Crank-a-kais just when you thought the Crank-a-kai in Mount Wildwood was bad enough. And do you know what's even worse? There are several exclusive yokai that could only be gotten through this. Not just for the POC, some of these yokai are fully exclusive to Terror Time. This is so bad that most people don't even try to do this when completing the medallion, and they basically give up at about this point. All of the fusion items are incredibly rare, and you're most likely going to get a fiend item instead. All of the rare yokai are so unbelievably rare that we still don't know everything available in the Oni Crank-a-kai. All of the sources online have either misinformation or yokai just straight up missing. So it's possible that I missed yokai in the Oni Crank, but if I did, I do get them in this challenge later on, so don't worry there. So rather than me just saying this is for torture, and here are all the yokai I needed, I'm just going to explain the best way to grind this mess. Yes, I am changing the video midway through. The first major thing about Terror Time is the items. There are items in every single attempt, however, they're not guaranteed to be exactly what you want. So I'm going to list all of the items and what they do and tell you which ones to aim for. The first is the stamina, which gives you an infinite amount of stamina for 30 seconds. The next is the Demi Field, which lets you become invisible for 10 seconds to stop a chase. Next is the Signable Trap, which lets you place a temporary trap for 7 seconds before disappearing, which stuns an Oni. The next is the Rocket Punch, which does 700 damage to the target, which can be both Oni and Patrol Eye. The last is the Blaze Bomb, which is an explosive that does 1500 damage and takes about 3 to 4 seconds to detonate. The best of the items are by far the Blaze Bomb and the Rocket Punch. The Blaze Bomb one-shots both Gargoyles and Ogrelas. The Rocket Punch is nice if you can't find a Blaze Bomb, as the bomb is quite rare. 2 of them kill Gargoyles, and 3 for Ogrelas. The Demi Field can be useful if stuck, and that's about it. Knowing what items to grab is pretty good, as you can avoid the useless ones. You can also pick an item up and use it to have other ones respawn. The next thing that is important about Terror Time is where you do it. There are 2 major factors that need to be accounted for in order to make Terror Time easier. The first thing is baffle boards. Baffle boards play a big part in defeating Oni, as they summon a signable trap guaranteed. However, this trap, as soon as it's activated, stays permanently until the Oni steps on it. This makes basic signable traps essentially irrelevant. However, the next important thing is the location. The available baffle boards are the Hungrim's baffle board in front of the Uptown Everymart, the Hinomi baffle board next to Eddie's house, and Washogun's baffle board in front of the Hot Springs. Now, I didn't cover Washogun as he is an evolution, but we can get him in this section. Now, the choice is on one of these 3 areas, as areas without baffle boards are at a massive disadvantage if you don't, as you can guarantee a trap every single attempt. Here's the deal. The Blossom Heights area is easy to get cornered, so that's a no-go. Breezy Hills feels more like a 50-50 to me in general, so it wouldn't be my choice. This leaves Uptown Springdale, which I think is perfect for Terror Time. This map is massive, and you have lots of leeway with Patrol Eye, as well as the map being easy to memorize and be consistent through the randomness. It's also a plus that it's the first map you see when leaving the Adams house. This makes it all worth it for Terror Time. Now, one factor you definitely need to know is that Orkanos is the one that I recommend avoiding, as he takes way too long to defeat, requiring at least 2 Blaze Bombs, which isn't worth it. Plus, it doesn't matter how much you really get, as it's all predetermined. But I'd stick to defeating Gargaros and Ogreless, as a single Blaze Bomb takes 1 out. It's also worth noting that 1 Blaze Bomb can kill multiple Oni. You got that? Cool. Because now you're going to be doing this for a while. Remember those rates? Yeah, it's a painful experience. It's probably the most painful thing in this challenge. It's miserable. However, at least it's a good strategic break from everything else. Right? Well, true, when you can do it. However, there's one thing I didn't mention. It takes forever to even encounter Terror Time on most nights. It can take 5 minutes to spawn, or even 2 hours. I recommend night because it spawns more often in the night. Also, once defeating Gargaros, only once, allows you to encounter Ogreless. All of this is basically your life for the next few weeks if you're attempting this challenge. All because, yes, this is as bullshit of a mechanic as humanly possible. Reminder, they locked exclusives behind this. Several, in fact, are gotten through this. So I hope you enjoyed Terror Time, because this is probably the worst version of Terror Time in any of the Yokai Watch games. This is horrible. I wouldn't recommend this challenge to anyone. This is so time consuming and annoying, I just want to leave one last reminder that it is possible that I missed something here, in which case I will get that yokai later on in some way. So the count will stay accurate at the end of the game. So with all of that out of the way, let's end this Terror Time guide, I don't know why I said that, and get back to the Professor Oak's challenge. In the first round of Oni Crankakai, I can get Static King, Chummer, Supyo, Grainpaw, Swell Terrier, and all of the needed fusion items. It's at this point where I took a break from the hellhole to go do the fusions and evolutions, since I did get that bored. So, with everything that I got, I was able to fuse Helmsman and Armsman to get Reunite, the Battered Blade and the Sinister Whetstone to get a Cursed Blade, which I can then fuse with Chanson to get Snay, Cubistol and the Love Busters to get Casanova, Castellius III with another Castellius III to get Castellius II, Castellius II and another Castellius II to get Castellius I, Dazabel and Cubistol to get Rattel, Schmoopy and the Love Scepter to get Binky Poo, Popsicle and the Snowstorm Cloak to get Chihuahua, Hungramps and the Love Packed Rice Ball to get Hungorge, Dismerelda and Happy Air to get Reversa, Ache and the Buff Weights to get Pain, Squeaky and the Horn to get Rory, Grumples and the Ageless Powder to get Everfor, Flushback and the Memovac to get Vacuumori, Grumpus Khan and the Carved Bear to get Groupus Khan, Slumberhog and the Goldfish Lantern to get Snortlehog, Panchapupil and the Master's Lantern to get Panchapro, Samariel and the Gold Emblem to get Timekeeler, Takuya Kid and the Takoyaki Tray to get Takuya King, Donkasand and the Dune Sand to get No Sankyu, Sumodon and the Vintage Parasol to get Yokozudon, Whateverist and the Terracotta Figure to get Whatuption, and Happy Cane and the Red Hibiscus to get Starry Cane. Holy shit, so many yokai. My voice is getting worn out from this. But remember, we still got evolutions. One quick thing before I list them, the best way to grind is to use the X-Orbs that you have to level up. Also, having some yokai that evolve on your team while you play through to get many levels is also a good strat. You should have a lot of X-Orbs at this point, but if you don't, the Special Gate of Whimsy should do you just fine. Anyways, I evolved Bushido into Washogun at level 19, Mangy Mutt into Multi-Mutt at level 22, Komasan into Komain at level 25, Noko into Bluminoko at level 25, Candle into Undi at level 18, all 3 Pack Pockets into 3 Robin Use respectively at level 23, Negatabuzz into Moskeevil at level 17, Snaggly into Winona at level 29, Caden into Cadeable at level 21, Droplet into Drizzle at level 25, Slush into All Hail at level 25, No Way into Impasse at level 29, Was That into Who's That at level 20, Dimmy into Blandon at level 24, Baku into Bakulia at level 29, Lion into Lionheart at level 26, Katana into Katanana at level 20, Wiglin into Kelpacabana at level 17, Slice and Rice into Flamorice at level 31, Komajiro into Komiger at level 33, Walkappa into Apak at level 32, Fish Pickable into Ragion at level 27, Dewana into Namor at level 15, Lodo into Super Hero at level 28, Yoink into Gimme at level 27, and So Sorry into Balmanos at level 30. Damn, that's a lot. Before we move on though, why did they make Koma-san evolve earlier but kept Komajiro at the same level? Why are they so far apart? Like, I'm stumbling on my words for whatever. Now, coming back from all of that, I can finally wrap up the Oni Crank with Lava Lord and Horn of Plenty. So, how long do you think Terror Time took? A day? 5 days? Try 3 weeks. For reference, you could watch all of One Piece completely straight for how long it took to get everything. And I would argue this to be very lucky. This is literally all I did for 3 whole ass weeks. Just want to shout out the Pokemon Cyphers for being some of the best pieces of music to ever exist and for helping me get through this torture. Also, this was around the time when Vanoss released the banger that is Miss Melancholy, which was definitely a song that I had on repeat a lot during this. I'm saying this for reference as with a final count of 223 yokai, and an even more astounding 70 hours and 28 minutes. That is definitely a lot. For reference, I'm going to spoil just how long the Yokai Watch 1 POC took, so skip to the time on screen for that. But that challenge took slightly less than 50 hours. Look at the runtime of this video and see how much we have left. Does this look like an easy challenge? No, don't do it. This was absolutely miserable to do. Also to note, the date is March 30th, 2025 here. It is currently July as of writing this, and now that I'm doing the voiceover, it is currently August 1st. Do you see why this took so long? Also, I got 4 ageless powder from this. I don't even know how I got all the fusion items, dude. It's so stupid. But oh my god, this shit is finally over. Let's move on, please. Anyways, after the hellhole of that, I was able to level up my team just a bit more to defeat Gargaros and Ogrelus at the red and green lights, and Ifun at the big gate of Whimsy door to finish all of those bosses with 226 yokai in a time of 71 hours and 44 minutes. Now, a change that I'm going to be making for this and any future Professor Oak challenge videos is that if there is a string of bosses with no yokai in between, just like the Gargaros, Ogrelus, and Ifun fights here, I'm just going to lump them all together in one section and then say the yokai amount and final time for after the last boss I beat afterwards. Because I feel like it'd be more repetitive if I just said, I beat this boss, then I got a final time. You get the point. Anyways, after changing my team for one fight, for the goofiest thing I could come up with, because of Terror Time's stupid BS, I make my way up to the school rooftop, where Whisper gets thrown into a gold capsule, and then a yokai called Gutsy Bones picks him up. He challenges us, but even with a team of level 1 S ranks, I was still able to beat the easiest Yokai Watch boss in the franchise's history. Now, it's not a super big feat, but it's still really funny how I got 4 static kinks. After he's been defeated, we leave and Whisper just is left on the roof, cause fuck it. Who remembers that guy anyway? Remember that one bit in Dr. Madman last video? Yeah, that. After going back home and magically getting Whisper, we learn of a feature that I won't be using for this run. Yokai Watch Blasters. Now, I just want to stress how annoying this game mode is if you do decide to include it, as this has its own Crank-Kai separate from Terror Time. But if you thought that was bad, picture the next upgrade, Yokai Watch Psychic Blasters, which has 12 new base Crank-Kais to grind, plus 3 additional tag versions of each of those gacha machines. So pretty much take that 12 number and triple it. Good luck if you include it in your run. Anyways, we go to Shopper's Row, where we eavesdrop to hear things are getting big in that area. Then it literally happens to a lady's donuts. That sounds really weird. We're gonna move on. We go over and see a big boy. Then he exhales and Nate's head gets big. Oh, okay, fine, I'll stop. So then Whisper somehow fixes this, and I guess Chabanyan too? What the fuck are you jumping for? So then Meganyan forces Nate to have the idea of going to Harrisville by zapping him with lightning. Bro was literally hypnotized. What? So after we get the idea to go to Harrisville, we talk to Jabanyan, who gives us the weather app. You know, a great source for making Terror Time easier. After finishing everything with Terror Time? Before going to Harrisville, we have some encounters to grab. But first, we have to upgrade the C-Rank watch by beating up yokai in the old mansion. So for the encounters before continuing the story, I'll divide up each area like before, and for all future groupings of yokai like this in the future. In Uptown Springdale, I can get Flumpy in the Lone Waterway, Cronger in the Uptown Riverbank, Anaconda in the sewers, and Jetinyon on the school roof. Just as a side note, Jetinyon couldn't be gotten earlier despite needing the requirements. Did I say needing? I mean meeting. Fuck. Due to not being allowed to enter the school roof normally until beating Gutsy Bones, as it was locked before his cutscene appeared. In Blossom Heights, I can get Blips in the grass and Uduit in the old mansion. And in Mount Wildwood, I can get Drizelda in the grass while it's raining at night. Yes, it's already specific. May God be with us all. And now I can access the second to last area of Springdale remaining, Downtown Springdale, where we won't be for long, as we are only riding the train here. But first, we can get Dilemma in the Academy shortcut, Wonston in Delivery Bay, Cheek Squeak in the garbage, and Suspicione under some cars. Also, I can snag the red keycard for talking to all the kids in the sewers on some Pennywise shit. I can also summon Mochismo in the baffle board near the construction site for later. I can also reveal this Illu baffle board near downtown Springdale to get access to floors 4 and 13 for later. The next thing that I needed to do was to ring this doorbell to get access to rubbing the golden egg outside of the Springdale Central Station to get a platinum bar after 20 days. Now, I decided to do fusions early, as you'll see why later. I've used Mochismo and Dilemma for Daramacho, and Castellius I with the platinum bar to get Castellius Max. And finally, after all of that, it's time to ride the train over to Harrisville. In this game, they made riding the train complicated. You now have to actually wait for your train, and it's how you access areas outside of Springdale for the most part. This is so time consuming, as you just sit here and wait over and over again. It's honestly one of the worst additions in this game, which is saying much because this is such a cool feature. One thing they decided would be a good idea was to add exclusives to the trains, which we have to get. Luckily, it's not any of the yokai that we have to encounter as train battles, rather, it's at each station. So, I'm just going to say which yokai I got at each station, just to simplify things. I can get RoboCap at Green Tree, RoboComa in Hiboi, that's a weird station, I'm sorry, RoboDraggy in Ridgemont, RoboMutt in Bayside, RoboGramps in Temple Park, and RoboNoko in Dingle Falls. Yes, it is called that. Now we can finally make our way to the Harrisville Station Plaza, which does have its own yokai, and we need to get them now. You'll see why. I can get Tantroni in the alley off the plaza, and Enafly in the trees. This is important because we need to go back to Springdale and use Enterfly and Enafly to get Betterfly. We're doing this now because once we enter Harrisville, we won't be allowed to go back to Springdale before the next boss, or as soon as we even enter Harrisville, so we have to get the fusions now. But after going all the way back, I can finally enter Harrisville, the first new major location in this game, where we meet Nate's grandmother. Now, she can be frustratingly slow because you're supposed to walk at her speeds, but luckily, entering a new loading zone allows you to get to her next location. This isn't a glitch, rather an exploit on how the game works. Once Nate's grandmother goes into her house, we can snag some more yokai there. In the rivers, I can get Fidgephant, under the porches, I can get Chippa, and in the school, I can get Melonyon, Oranyon, Kiwinyon, Grapenyon, Strawbenyon, and Watermelonyon. Continuing the story, we pay respects to Nate's grandfather before giving key quests? Really? The first of which is a really important one for this challenge. At the Temple of Virtue, we can give the Grand Monk a bamboo shoot to crucify our yokai. Yes, this is a feature. Once you do, these yokai get turned into souls, which are a new form of equipment that can be really good. One I would recommend right away is turning your Gleam into a soul, as this will make Snartle deal a lot more damage. If that's something you're not willing to do though, you can just always turn your Lionheart or any Lionhearts you've cranked out into a soul for a weaker version. Also, we can turn the remaining Mochismo, 3 Steppa, and the remaining Robinyu into souls for later. The next requests aren't important, just hide and seek and fishing, which they also changed fishing to be so much worse than it was, and it was just random before. How do you do that? After that, we hear someone yelling. We investigate the new Mount Middleton to find Mirapo got himself stuck. We bring him down and he gives us his yokai medal in turn. Yes, the game gives you Mirapo this early. However, he isn't that good as of now, as we can only warp around Harrisville. Mirapo also lets us unlock Shogunyan in the Medallion. Yes, we already have Shogunyan. Mount Middleton also does feature one more yokai that we need, that being Wondernyan in the 2nd floor. So now we're done. Right? Right? Oh, you poor fool. If only this section could be easy. Oh, I'm so sorry. This is the Infinite Tunnel. It is, as described, an infinite tunnel. Now, you're not supposed to finish this at this point in the game, as your yokai are supposed to be below level 20. However, they give you full access to it, and I wish they didn't. The Infinite Tunnel is very simple in concept. You move up, and occasionally hit A. This tunnel is very complicated, but once you learn it, it is a snooze fest to go through. Let me break this down for you and learn the mechanics. Yes, this is an ASMR voice. Stop telling me to change it, it's not changing. The first thing to note are the NPCs, which are broken into 3 categories. The first of which are the regular NPCs. Depending on the one, they allow you to either extend the tunnel, shorten the tunnel, give you an item, have yokai fight you, or a combination of them. The most notable of these is by far the Tangler. This man with his pug asks you a question and it can either extend the tunnel or shorten the tunnel. He is notable because he appears the most out of any NPC in this tunnel. This is important because the farther into the tunnel you go, the more difficult it becomes, which includes yokai, which also the Tangler can summon. Speaking of which, they're the next NPC to talk about. These yokai will battle you, and is the reason why we're here, as there are yokai that we need here. There's also a grouping of these. There are the easy ones, and the hard fights, which change the yokai to either your current pool of yokai, or the next grouping. The last NPCs are the other NPCs. Basically, these consist of a vending machine, which can either give you trash, or not. There's the switch, which gives a chance of either making the tunnel shorter, or lumber, and the infinite railroad, which will randomly send you either forwards or backwards. Now, the best way to play this is to memorize the options available and avoid the switches. Yes, I had to memorize every single decision for the entirety of the run. And that's not all. Do you know how long it takes to finish a tunnel run? A long time. And the worst part is that you aren't even guaranteed to find the yokai you want at the end of the tunnel, which is stupid. So here you sit, hold up, and keep going the whole time for a while, listening to the same theme over and over and over and over again on constant loop. And that shit is 7 minutes. And do you want to know the worst part? This shit is locked behind a once-a-day dumb fucking bullshit. Why? Do I need any more of an inconvenience? Hell, if I wasn't date skipping, I would have spent 40 days alone waiting for Almi in the Platinum Bar. But now this is stupid. And that isn't even the worst part. If the gameplay was fun, I'd be somewhat okay with it. But no, this is the same repetitive shit over and over again. It's just move up, hit A, move up, hit A, move up, fight yokai, move up, hit A. This shit is so repetitive. 23% of you have already clicked off this video. It's so repetitive, it makes the Jurassic Park, Assassin's Creed, and Call of Duty franchises combined look less repetitive. It makes Darman videos look interesting. How the fuck does one accomplish such a feat? This shit sucks so bad. The script looks like a whole ass essay for some AP curriculum type shit. The only positive thing that I can say about this is that you can get really good items from this. Is this enough mighty medicine? Anyways, enough yapping for now. I'm going to sort each yokai by how far you can get them, because of course, the pools change after so many yards. But first, I can get Nefarious at the 13th door, which is at least guaranteed every attempt. Under 2,000 yards, I can get Fergus and Pitapat. Under 5,000 yards, I can get Tublappa and Smoglin. Under 8,000 yards, I can get Espy, Copperlead, Alu, Contrarioni, Focappa, Papa Bolt, and Mama Aura. I can also evolve Fergus into Ferdinand at level 28, and Smoglin into Smogmella at level 27. Side note, some of these yokai are gotten through talking to the Tangler and having him bring in a hard battle. But there is one yokai that treaded me for a long time. Devourer. I have an analogy for you. Now, imagine working an office job. You sit at your desk and work at a computer for hours a day. But then you get told that you can get a promotion that you need. So you work harder than you've ever had for it, only for you to realize that it never existed in the first place. That's Devourer, because of fucking course, the wiki puts him alongside other yokai that I guarantee you don't appear there. I think the range is definitely misleading though. I'll explain in a bit. I spent a lot of time trying to get these yokai, and do you know how long? Well, I finished this section with 274 yokai, and a final time of 125 hours and 15 minutes. What the fuck? I want to direct you to the date. Yes, that does say June 10th, because yes, this did take 3 whole months. For perspective, Terror Time took 3 fucking weeks. But anyways, I can finally beat Malice in the infinite tunnel before moving on. Right? Right? Well, what if I told you that there is more after that? After beating Malice, you get access to the tunnel in an unbounded state. Basically, however much you want to go is how far your mind determines it. Or RNG, but we don't talk about that. The most important thing, though, is the fact that there are 2 more pull changes in the tunnel after the locked amount before. One for under 20,000 yards, and one for above 20,000 yards. Because, of course, you needed to do more infinite tunnel. And do you know the worst part? This is the best way to get some yokai here. Specifically, Static King, Swell Terrier, and Hornaplenty. This shit takes so long, this video is gonna be my therapy session when I'm done. This is gonna be someone else's training that they use ChatGPT to get to the point where they're at in therapy. I can't believe they really expected us to grind up to this point. Like, seriously? And then they have the audacity to make these rare? Luckily, we spent all that time on the worst quote-unquote upgrade being Terror Time, so we're good there. But under 20,000 yards, I can get Cut and Cheese, Timid Devil, Lanedian, Kieran, Tengu, Chimera, and Greasel. As a side note, you can get the Bun of Oneness before the next boss, which is pretty funny. But who's available above 20,000 yards? Goddamn Devourer. Oh my god. Now I've basically changed entirely at this point. My mindset completely changed at this time. Even to the point where I thought of nothing but this stupid soul-snatching bitch. I honestly thought that this would take years to get. I genuinely got so burnt out from doing this that I worked on another video and procrastinated on that until it was done. That video being the glitches in Yokai Watch. But I had lost all sense of hope for this challenge, and honestly, I was putting it off for a while. I was honestly thinking about quitting altogether, and normally from something like this, I would. But one day, while listening to the goated Pokemon Cypher 2024, I saw a video get recommended to me. This video was my own video on the Yokai Watch Professor Oak's challenge. And I rewatched the video, just to see myself at a different time. Keep in mind, I was still in school, so I couldn't spend all my time on the challenge. I also had to procrastinate on doing homework. But when I watched the video up to the final chapter, I had a reason. That video is essentially the best thing I have ever done. And I wanted to improve on it. So, I booted up the game, and I went to open my save file. Only for this to appear on screen. Yeah, I lost my save file. All of those yokai and so much effort in one save file was gone. I literally had my jaw drop, my eyes wide open like a parent seeing their child's search history for almost 2 minutes straight. That shit was so terrifying. Luckily, I was smart enough to be paranoid about a situation like this, and make save states at every point of progress, in case something bad happened. And luckily, my last save was just after getting the last yokai before Devoured. And now, it's a now or never. And then a tornado almost hit my house. That was fun. Then, I finally found one. He's here. There's no way in hell I can't get him. Sadly, the first one didn't befriend me. But then the next one did. This was such an impressive feat for the run. I mean, this was the yokai that I knew would take the longest. And oh, the longest he took. This was such a feat that I made a YouTube post that was just a PNG of Devourer I found off of Google. Same on Twitter. This greenlit the run to being easy. This actually seemed to be possible. But before we can continue, we still have yokai to get. Firstly, I can reveal Slurpent in the medallion, thanks to Devourer, of course. Then, I can finally continue the story. I climb up to the top of Mount Middleton, where we comment on the view after seeing sunlight for 1 minute at a time for 3 months straight. Then, it starts raining and Nate and Jibanyan play around. But then it stops in one single area. Turns out, Palisol is causing that. Apparently a yokai celebrity. After a bit, he disappears, which makes them want to leave. So we return home to Grandma's house, where we ignore the meal and take a shower. He's probably thinking about how this dinner took 3 months to make only for him to not eat it. How do you think Nate's grandma feels after that? We fall asleep only to hear noises outside. We see Snow Betty bullying Tungus right outside. After beating Snow Betty, Tungus gives us her yokai medal. This concludes this section with 285 yokai in a time of 147 hours flat. Jesus Christ. After going back to bed, we wake up only to find that the donuts are getting Okay, I'll stop. I'll fully stop this time, I swear. But then this goofy-ass donut grows even bigger and flies outside. We chase it only to find Meganyan in the shed. After beating and deflating him, we learn that he's actually Hoveryan, and Nathaniel, Nate's grandfather, needs help in the past. But how do we get there? Simple. A time stone. Hoveryan activates it and sends us all the way into the past, where we all WWE slam on top of Whisper. We are now officially in Old Harrisville, marking our first visit to the past. We check inside the house only to not find him. We go outside to see our first encounter with the Wicked Yokai. The Wicked Tribe is the new tribe introduced in Yokai Watch 2, which is basically a major plot point with this game. We see a Wicked Yokai in Spirit Whisper, only for a guy to just run up and beat the living shit out of Whisper with a bat. Turns out, this is Nathaniel. Hands and armpit waving and all. Bro leaves to his base and we're supposed to follow suit, but we have one yokai to get. I can get Mud Munch in the field here. And now we can listen to some of the best music in gaming history. After entering the Ninja Forest, we can learn of Nathaniel's passion for Maximus Mask and a prototype design plan of the Model Zero, what is considered the first yokai watch. We run over to the station plaza, where we're told there's a yokai that can simultaneously warp to the present and the past. We find Miradox, who instantly befriends us and allows us to time warp, which is super cool. Now we can pay $3 to go to Old Springdale, a place with the best music. Here, we need to take on key quests to get all of the parts needed to construct the Model Zero. The first one is at the Springdale Ironworks, where we meet the first wind-spirited wicked yokai that is in combat, Bad Smella. After playing hide and seek, we beat her only for a yokai to defeat the schemer in Spirited Smogmella. That was Total Dude, who we'll talk about later. It's important to note that if you're playing on 1.0 Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls, it's possible that you can get a glitch to happen where any yokai you befriend is going to be Bad Smella instead of the yokai you were trying to get. Obviously, this glitch wouldn't be allowed, but by soft resetting, you can remove the effects of it. Before we continue, I can get Lady Longneck at the gravestones near Shoten Temple. Moving on, we can head over to Old Mount Wildwood, or as the game calls it, Mount Wildwood Past, for some weird reason, where Komajiro is there and needs a letter for Koma-san. After delivering it, we move on to a part that a lot of you forgot or didn't know of. So, in the past, the Crank-a-kai is still present. However, this version has a completely different pull to the Crank-a-kai in the present, so we have to get those here. Yes, another gacha machine, after the 20 plus we already discussed about. But luckily, it isn't much of a task. In the red coins, I can get Zerberker. In the pink coins, I can get Cincada. In the green coins, I can get Predictable and Old Saint Trick. In the blue coins, I can get Tengloom and Agon. And in the light blue coins, I can get Mermaiden, Confuse, and Bananos. Like I said, not much, but after all I've gone through, this is a nice break. After that, I can wake up almost all of the Miropos in the game for easy traveling. While I do this, I can snag up the Hagapeño to give to Mr. Goodsight in the past. Yes, he and other characters in the present are here. They are probably yokai, but whatever. After that, I can go to the Ninja Forest, where Nathaniel uses the new parts to invent the Model Zero, which is a nice help for this challenge. This is the reason why Snoddle is so important for this run. Basically, when a yokai is loafing or is inspirited, you can poke them for an effect. These range from damage to money, but the one that we're focusing on is the befriending part, which is essentially a free wisp. Thanks to Snoddle's skill and his speed, we can guarantee an inspirit almost instantly in battle. This helps befriending a ton and will be used for the remaining yokai. Anyways, Nathaniel dips and Hovernyan follows. Following Hovernyan leads us to learning about Nathaniel's yokai friends. He gives us bottle caps with the names of the yokai on them. We find the statue of Fokappa and come up with a way to purify them. Luckily, Whisper has the Rockaway extract he bought probably off of the dark web to purify. Only it has to work in the present. So now we have 5 whole key quests where we have to go and find Nathaniel's friends and befriend them ourselves. The first one is in Mount Middleton, where we follow Palisol, who isn't a statue. As it turns out, he can move freely when it is raining only, so that's why he was flying around while we were up there. After purifying him, I can befriend Palisol. The next in the past version of Grandma's house, where I can befriend Nomi after checking the fireplace. The next one is nearby Walkappa, where I can get another Fokappa. Now we're going to start the mermaiding quest. However, that ends in a boss fight, so we can't finish it just yet. But we find Toiletta in the bathroom at the Harrisville school and play a game of hide and seek to know Mermaiden's location. Now we can access the last area of Springdale, Excellent Tower, where I can get Nagatha and Blazion under the cars. But afterwards, it's time to grind for some tough yokai. Firstly, I can actually get a yokai that I couldn't get before Malice due to the same level of BS as in the first game. Scranny. Scranny has the exact same fucking problem as in the first game, but arguably worse here. See, remember how you couldn't leave Harrisville once entering? Yeah, well, we can't reset the Scranny yokai spot at all if she's in Harrisville until we befriend Miradox. So unless you get extreme luck when starting this chapter, or the previous chapter, I'm not going to count Scranny in the last chapter, just like the first game. But I did manage to get her in only 3 resets here, which is a huge W. After getting her, I decided to find the Odin requests needed to get Master Odin, which requires those souls that I specified earlier, specifically the Mochismo, Steppa, and Raubinyu souls. These requests take a long time to find, as you have to find them on clear nights and they may not even be there. After an hour or so, I could finally get Master Odin. Master Odin is cool because he is the only efficient way to get top class Odin, which is the best Odin in the game. Also, I put him in the battle board in Chopper's Road to get smaller Odin in case of emergency. I can also put Blazion in the battle board outside of Jungle Hunter to hopefully make the last items I need just a bit easier to grab. Now we can access the second to last major area in the game, San Fantastico. This area isn't home to a lot of yokai. Literally all we need is Waper, who is found under the cars. And now we get access to one of the most tedious areas in the game, Mystery Way. See, this isn't nearly as bad as Terror Time or the Infinite Tunnel, but it does have its flaws, which we'll get to later. But for now, I just need to grab some yokai in here. If you don't know, Mystery Way is divided up by different paths. There's the main one, and the version paths, which just need to link to the other versions without the need of another save file, so it's completely legal. The only yokai we need are from the fusion paths, which is interesting. In the Bony Spirits way, I can get Rhinogun and Gargaros. And in the Fleshy Souls way, I can get Beetler and Ogrelus. Now, you may think that we have to wait for the last Oni, right? Believe it or not, no. My rules state that repeat bosses and bosses that don't get added to the medallion don't count. And for some weird reason, Warpaint or Kanos does not get added to the total. So, he's fair game. So after getting Orkanos in the Gold Gleaming Highway, I can snag a Moxie Mark near the end of the path. This lets me befriend Maximus N in the Harrisville Cemetery. I do still have some stuff left to do. For starters, I can purify Predictable in the Excellent Tower. Then, I can do another horrible addition to this game, Scratch-Offs. Yes, not only do we have a literal lottery system in Candy Stop, we also have scratch-off tickets. In the Excellent Tower ones, I can get the sand suit from this one. You know how many date skips it took to find it though? 2 whole months! That shit hit me hard, dude. Now the last thing we need to do is fusions. I can use Tungus and Schmoopy to get Nurse Tungus, Sandma and the Sandsuit to get Mr. Sandma, Tengloom and the Hydabat to get Abodabat, and Timidevil and the Shard of Evil to get Beelzebul. I finished this section with 315 yokai in a time of 157 hours and 2 minutes. And now is the time of painful grinding. Because of course there is. We have a few select bosses we can choose from, but the next one is easily going to be Glitzy Bones, as he has the most available yokai after beating him. So, after beating him in the Gold Gleaming Highway, I can use yet another Crankakai. Of course, there's more gacha machines. Why wouldn't there be more in the game that introduces loads of gambling? So this machine is actually different from the other ones we've seen. Basically, every boss in Mystery Way has their own Crankakai. When they're beaten for the day, they drop a coin that can only be used in their respective Crankakai. Each Crankakai has its own small pool of yokai and items to get, with some being exclusive. So, in the Butterfly Mystery Coin, I can get Evanyan, Safinyan, Dianyan, and Drop. I can finish this section with 320 yokai in a time of 158 hours and 31 minutes. Yeah, I got extremely lucky with this group. Hopefully that stays the same for the rest of the game. The next boss is going to be through the standard path, where we can beat Goldie Bones. After that, I can use the Mystery Way Crank to get Flengu, Sandy, and Skreek. Also, I want to point out how I got all of them back to back from each other, which is insane. This definitely makes up for that Sandsuit luck, huh? I can finish this section with 324 yokai in a time of 158 hours and 53 minutes. After that, we can choose between either Red Tinado or Hans Galore, since it doesn't matter. I went with Hans Galore because I thought of him being easier, so after beating Hans Galore in the Fleshy Soul's way, I can crank out Topanyan, finishing that section with 324 yokai and a time of 159 hours and 54 minutes. Then, I can take on Red Tinado in the Bony Spirit's Way, which lets me get Rubinyan from the Bony Spirit's Way crank. I can finish this section and the entirety of Mystery Way with 328 yokai in a time of 160 hours and 43 minutes. Now, we aren't done with side bosses just yet, as we still have 2 more. Luckily, I started the quest for one already, so we're good. After doing treasure hunts with Andy and his team, we make our way to the abandoned tunnel, where we can find the wheel resting where the treasure is. We beat him and then take the treasure, only for Ruffruff to inspirit Mark, who we easily defeat? I'm keeping that in, that was so bad. We defeat and finish those requests altogether. After that, I can go to the old mansion where Alex's Wildlife Club is at and wants to explore it. After a bit of exploring, we can make our way to the side house where Chirpster resides. After beating him, I can finish those requests and the section with 330 yokai, a time of 161 hours and 48 minutes. After all of that, we can make our way over to the Seaside Cave, where after doing the 3 Baffled Ward puzzles, we can purify Mermaiden only for Captain Crash to attack us. After defeating him, I can finally purify Mermaiden and finish the key quests. We then randomly get hit with Nathaniel training to become as good as Maximus Mask. If you haven't already seen the movie or played the game at all, a lot of the plot is based on the movie, and this part directly references that one friend who got bullied while Nathaniel was standing there watching. After they stopped being friends, Nathaniel swore to beat the evil and be the best hero, just like Maximus Mask. After that, we actually unlocked a brand new request in front of the Harrisville Station Plaza. Harry Berry, who we all know from that one hide-and-seek game with Toiletta, wants to be the mascot in town for Harrisville. Long story short, we meet him back in the Excellent Tower, but he's struggling to advertise himself, so we go back to the station plaza only to run into Kumamon, an actually popular Japanese mascot and Harry Berry's idol. So then, he goes back to the Excellent Tower and performs silently for a crowd of yokai. he becomes our friend, but probably will have a hard time advertising Harrisville with this type of campaign. Anyways, that's all for this section. I finished that section with 332 yokai, time of 162 hours and 46 minutes. Yes, this is going to get a little repetitive as we go on. Now we can head back to the Ninja Forest, but Kin and Gin appear and fight us. After we beat the dual attack, Nathaniel and his yokai friends defeat them, before making me play a dogshit minigame where we do the Maximus Mask pose. Then, we get a cutscene of Kin and Gin telling their leader, Dame Deadtime, about how the Yokai Watch reappeared after they made it disappear. Basically, Dame Deadtime's goal is to stop humans and yokai from bonding through the Yokai Watch. Also, she tends to end every sentence or paragraph with dun dun dun, which I'm about to be after the hellhole that was the first few sections. Then we cut to Nate watching the news, where we learn of a horrible storm, which can be bad for the challenge if played incorrectly. Then we fast forward to learning about one of the best yokai in this game, Sergeant Burley, before starting key quests. Actually, 2 of these key quests are very important for this challenge, which is really nice. We can start finding the brown envelope that Nate's dad needs because it seems like he tends to forget this all the fucking time for some weird goddamn reason. Get your shit together, dude. But then we have to start the first mandatory quest, Jibanyan Secret. Now, this request is essentially just an entire episode from the anime, specifically Season 1, Episode 25, so spoilers ahead. We find Jibanyan hanging out at the riverbank and trying to get attention from the ladies. I get it, bro. Then Kin and Gin appear and literally zap Jibanyan into another dimension, like he used the fucking Song of Time. He wakes up to realize he's Rudy. Yeah, if you didn't know, yokai were at one point actual beings or items before being turned into yokai, and this is Jibanyan's original form. This section is unique, as we can just straight up play as Rudy for the quest, which is actually really cool. We go downstairs to see Amy and her mom arguing about grades, before Amy starts complaining about her mom to Rudy. Now, if you don't know, Amy is Rudy's owner. Jibanyan always says that Amy was saying that Rudy is lame when he died, which is sad and heartless. Basically, he left the house due to arguing and he wants to go back to life as a regular cat, which is why we're here. After they hang out together at the riverbank, they go home to rest. Then, they go out and are about to pass by the Lambert post office when Amy sees her friends. She mistakenly doesn't look both ways, and then there just so happens to be a truck speeding by like it's a video on idiots in cars. And this is exactly why Rudy died, to protect Amy from the truck. However, we get McCracken's second form boss music for some reason as Kin and Gin appear and try to get Rudy to not save Amy and keep his life, to separate him from Nate. Rudy declines and sacrifices himself to save Amy. This is where we learn that Amy wasn't being mean, rather she was just upset at the loss of her cat. Then Jibanyan gets sent all the way back to Nate, where they also start fighting. The usual. This summarizes most of the ideas of that episode, except mentioning the part of the Shinigami. Let me put my nerd glasses on. Which is literally important to the lore of Rudy, but just isn't mentioned for whatever reason. I'm sorry, I have to rant about this bullshit. If you don't know, basically the Shinigami are the yokai equivalent to the Grim Reaper. Except there's like many of them, it's like a shitty office job. And they're the ones responsible for Rudy's death, as mentioned in that episode. The only mention, if you can even call it that, is the truck being inspirited, and that truck was also meant for Amy in that episode, but Rudy sacrificed himself instead. Pointless door key info aside, we can now progress the game as normal because, for some weird reason, you're forced to do that quest first. Anyways, after checking a bunch of train stations, I go to Nate's dad in the business tower and summon Flutchback to plunge out his memories. We check the bike shop and they have it secured. After returning it, we finally get access to the bike, which is so useful for this challenge. If you remember from the first game, the bike basically doubles your speed and makes it even easier to run around. However, they buffed it so now you can increase your speed by pedaling faster while moving on the bike, which is insanely useful for getting around Springdale. Then, I can start and finish the B rank challenge. Now we're kind of in a predicament here. I need to sleep to get yokai. Otherwise, the next portion of the game will begin and I'll be locked to not getting any more yokai until I beat the next story boss. And going to sleep in the Adams house makes me start that, or rather entering the Adams house, because they automatically make you watch a cutscene. So, what do? Well, for some reason, they decided on letting you be able to sleep in Nate's grandma's house, completely A-okay, which means that we can do anything we want except return home. So, I can get Very Good Sir in the Excellent Tower Trees, and Shrook in Seaside Cave. This finishes this section with 336 yokai, and a time of 163 hours and 57 minutes. Now, we can still get one more yokai. It's just locked behind a boss. After unlocking the B rank watch, you can access the request from the Washogun battle board, in which he says that he's having a hard time cleaning the hot springs and needs some help. We go in and find Sproink just chilling. Then he gets mad and fights us, but since he's one of the easiest bosses in the game, we easily demolish him. Basically, he's waiting for an old friend to return, so we go to Fortune Hospital to find him and he hands us the towel he uses. We give it to Sproink, who then hands us his yokai medal, which finishes the section with 338 yokai in a time of 164 hours and 6 minutes. We do have one more boss to beat though before continuing the story. We can talk to Lena and Zoe, who want to go to the school at night. After investigating around, we eventually check the women's room. Yes, they do make us do that, and it's the only time we can, as the boy character, believe it or not, to find Tarantutor, who wants to fight. After beating yet another easy boss, we can find Toiletta here and finish that request. Now, after multiple in-game days, we can go home to start the day with the actual storm, because clearly that's how the weather works. We then see a cutscene of a yokai named Brokenbrella spying on Rayolite and Drizelda being romantic before a boss named iClone comes in. Brokenbrella then goes to Nate for help because why the fuck not, before making us follow him around the storm in order to fight iClone, which is actually really funny because we fought all of his recolors in the sections prior, being Ifune and Rentinata. After beating him, the storm clears up and we befriend Brokenbrella. Fun fact, we have all of the E ranks in the game. Now normally I wouldn't mention when I get specific ranked yokai, but this is literally the last one we can get, which is really funny. We cut to Harinyan appearing out of a Miradox to find Nate and get him to help with a quote-unquote war in Old Springdale. But first, we still have some things to do. Firstly, I can finish the A-rank challenge request by finding yokai in the Nocturne Hospital. Yeah, we finally went there. Then, I can go up the Business Tower. Did I say Business Tower? I don't even fucking know, dude. I'm fucking out of it. We can go there to the 4th floor, where I can get the blue key card. This is the last key card, which means that I can go to the sewer entrance in Uptown Springdale to swipe them to befriend All Evil. Yeah, you probably forgot about that, didn't you? Then, I can head over to Springdale Elementary, which now lets me get the chance to see Sergeant Burley on the school roof by climbing the pole. If you don't get Burley though, you can just soft reset. So, it's okay if you don't get him. Now, Sergeant Burley is one of the best yokai in the game. Literally, just no chance. He's one of the best in the game. Not only is he good in the competitive scene, he's also a C rank. He's also good because his entire gimmick is essentially boosting all stats, which pairs well with Snartle and Shogunyan. Not to mention, he's a brave tribe, so the brave unity works out really well. Then I can go to Old Harrisville, where I can befriend Compunzer in the grass. This finishes this section with 344 yokai in a time of 165 hours and 10 minutes. Now we can finally start making use of the Springdale Sports Club. The Springdale Sports Club is a place where you can do yokai challenges through battling, and you can get BP, which is essentially EV training in this game. The main attraction here for us though is the Boss Rush, which allows you to refight most of the bosses in the game. Except Meganyan, because why fight him again when there is no other alternatives, so you can't fight him again. Anyways, the Boss Rush also includes bosses we can't normally fight, so going to the Boss Rush I can fight Slimamander, SV Snackerjag, and Massiface back to back. Also, for some weird reason you can't refight Massiface by himself, but rather only in the Boss Rush series. Then, I can go to the museum vault at night to help Diana Gately find out what's making the noises there. Turns out, it's Phantasmarine, who wants to fight. After beating him, we can move on to helping Zoe and Lena in the Nocturne Hospital, where we find a secret room under the pool that is being used by Dr. Madaman to create the ultimate yokai. So, Whisper, super genius, decides to unleash it and we destroy Madaman's life creation. Hans full. Trust me, this is important for later. And believe it or not, this is everything optional that we can do. We beat all of the bosses up to this point and befriended everything we can. So now let's continue the story. We head to Old Springdale, where Hovignon tells us about the ongoing war between the bony spirits and the fleshy souls. This war started escalating now, and it's starting in Flatpot Plains, which is yet another new area introduced in this game. This is actually right where the Infinite Inferno is. If you remember that spot, it was told that there was a horrible war in that location at one point. And this is the war. We go there and see a cutscene of the two generals shit-talking each other. Now, we already met Total Dude, who was the general of the Fleshy Souls, and now we get introduced to the Bony Spirits general, Arachnus. Basically, we're going to war with him. We go over to the Fleshy Souls base, where we meet Total Dude and QB. Yes, QB is the leading soldier. Have the Simp be the leader, sure, why not? Then the war starts and the Guardian Mirror on the Fleshy side is being attacked. We defeat the Eyesore there before we go to take out the Guardian Mirror on the Bony side. After Hovignon slaps the shit out of it, we go over and defeat Arachnus, securing the win on the Fleshy side. We ask Arachnus why the war started, and he tells us his tale. Basically, hundreds of years ago, Arachnus and Total Dude were going to get a gift for Lord Enma on behalf of all of the yokai. They ended up deciding on donuts, but they couldn't choose between the custard and the creamy donuts. Yes, remember that conflict that Nate's parents were having in the beginning of the game? Yeah, it's the exact same fucking conflict as in the yokai war. What foreshadowing that was, am I right? Nathaniel then calls all yokai on both sides to the center of Flatpot Plains. He says that he knows who's orchestrating the battle, and then proceeds to whack the shit out of the Tublappa nearby. Then, that Tublappa turned into a fucking flicker, and then all the yokai around them all turned to fucking wickeds! Basically, all of the wickeds were making the yokai fight in a war. Then, Kinnigan appeared and taunts us before Dame Deadtime appears, and taunts us more before sicking Unfairy on the generals. While they deal with Unfairy, we go to find Master Miyata, who is said to be the strongest yokai in existence. Bullshit. We meet up with Nathaniel at Galleria Boulevard, where we see him watching Maximus Mask. You know who else is? Fucking Master Nyata, cause of course he is. He tells us to go to Full Face Rock in the past, where he gives us the Nyata trials. Basically, just hide and seek, tag, and beating up a demon who eats Oni for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, the usual. After beating up the Muncher, Master Nyata hands us the hose like most rappers' music videos. We make our way back to Flatpot Plains, where Jibanyan just straight up chucks that hose at Unfairy, who gets rightfully pissed. He did indeed use the hose. Unfairy then attacks us, and we beat him easily right before we see a cutscene that introduces us to the remaining 4 wicked executives: Unkind, Untidy, Unpleasant, and Unkeen. Dame Deadtime then banishes Unfairy before she heads over to Nate to send him to present-day Springdale. But there's a wicked yokai inspiriting that guy. Wait, does that mean... Yes, the wicked have invaded the present, too. Surely it doesn't affect Nate's parents, right? Well, fuck. Luckily, there just so happens to be a new battle board that spawned there that just so happens to summon Miradox. We go to the past again, where we can destroy the machines pumping out fog to the Dead Cloud, which is the reason why so many wicked yokai are spawning. After breaking all of them and beating their respective wicked executive, I can go to Sunset Manufacturing Co., where I can challenge Dame Deadtime, only for her to fully heal back to full. Great. We check in on Nathaniel and Hovignon, who are facing off against Kinnigan. Nathaniel calls out to all yokai, who, with their power, is able to beat Kinnigan once and for all. Turns out, Kinnigan were constantly healing Dame Deadtime, so now we can defeat Dame Deadtime, which is the last boss we can add before beating the final boss. Then Dame Deadtime goes over to the train station and transforms into her final form, Dame Demona. Just ignore this form from the movie. we head over to Dame Demona, where after beating her, that actually finishes the entire main story for the Professor Oak's challenge. She flies off like she's blasting off again and removes the dead cloud in the process, which removes all of the wicked yokai in both the past and the present. We say our goodbyes to Nathaniel and the yokai of this time before getting hit with the same workout session that Whisper and Jabanya were listening to chapters earlier, and I think if I play any of it, I get copyright struck, so we're not having that here. With a final count of 351 yokai, in a time of 167 hours and 51 minutes, we're done. Right? Well, you probably watched the first video. You forget. We always have the postgame. First things first, I can go to the Ninja Forest, where I can befriend Hovernyoung. Next, I want to do the S-Rank challenge by beating up yokai in Old Springdale. Yeah, things are going to get very hectic as the time comes, but for now, just bear with me. The first thing I wanted to do is go to Rolling Waves Park to get Komajiro S. The next thing is to unlock the second to last major area in the game. To start, we have to talk to Lucas, who lets us have the key to the yokai world. Remember that place? Yeah, it's still here with not many use cases. The one thing we need right now though is to follow along and beat the yokai fighting each other over curry bread? Yes, I'm serious. That's the reason. This lets me fight Corpton and befriend him. Then I can go to Mount Middleton, where I can befriend Pepion. Pepion lets me get another legendary in the medallion, Elder Bloom. Yeah, you missed this, didn't you? Anyways, I can go next to the Everymart in Uptown to pick up the hose. This lets me start a request in Old Mount Middleton to do the remaining Yada trials. After sleeping for the first one, we can see a cutscene of Bronzelo reviving Kin and Gin where we fought them last. Because, of course, he wasn't present. Back to the trials though, the first one to get is getting first in a bike race against Eyesore to befriend him. The next trial is to fight Demuncher and then befriend him. The last trial is literally the exact same thing as Demuncher, but with Master Nyada, who I can befriend, again, the exact same way. Master Nyada lets me get the final legendary I can obtain, Spoilerino. Now, it's time to snag some new fusion items that are unlocked after beating the game. I can get the fusion items at What a Find, the Memory Store, and Jungle Hunter. Now I need to solve the baffle board outside the station at San Fantastico to put Shummer in it and unlock Little Haven Station. This lets me start a request that is probably one of the most mind-numbingly painful requests in the entire series. You seriously need to wait right outside the shrine at the wharf until it's dawn, meaning about 30 real-world minutes outside the shrine in order to finish it. It's at least something you can wait for while doing other stuff, and Terror Time can't spawn, but still, why introduce a quest like this? After waiting until dawn, Swash will appear and call you a polluter before fighting you. After beating him, you then have to wait a whole real-world day in order to fight him again. God, this quest sucks. Then, after all of that, you can finally befriend Swash. Why did they make him so complicated? What the fuck is this stupid whatever? After all of that, I can go to the Mount Wildwood Summit to get Uncle Infinite. Now, the last yokai we need in the wild is in the Excellent Tower, where I can get Azure Dragon through the binoculars. Mind you, on the first try. The last thing we need to do is fusions. I can fuse Beetler and the General Soul to get Beetle, Rhinoggin and the Unbeatable Soul to get Rhinormus, Frostina and the Glacial Clip to get Blazaria, Predictable and the Ethereal Water to get Smashable, Draggy and the Dragon Orb to get Dragonlord, and Mermaiden and the Mermaid Pearl to get Myrmidonna. I can finish this section with 369 yokai in a time of 171 hours and 50 minutes. So now, what's next? Well, I can go to Nate's house, where there's a Leckley, and he has a request for us, basically a letter, because he's a mailman for some reason. We open it and learn that Whisper won a ticket to the Hexpress with 10 million entries. Why did they let that shit slide? You know what? Whatever. In order to go though, we have to go to Whimsy Valley Station at night in order to ride the Hexpress. Now, this is the new major content the Psychic Spectres introduced. Yes, we just got to this point. We go on and turns out there's a missing brake handle. We find out that Yoink stole it and we attempt to give it back to the conductor, Hedestein. However, he thinks we stole it, so he wants to fight. After beating him, we can finally get off to Gara Gara Land. This is the last major area in the game, and it's honestly really cool to see. What isn't cool is that we have to do this section. Now, I want to get this out of the way now, as it's very important to training up your yokai. Very rarely, you can find the Happy-Go-Lucky Express, which lets you find the nicest of items in yokai. The fights on this train are actually all Dazes, who is the best yokai to get experience from, as they are easy to beat and give so much of it. Once getting off the train though, you can access Buckle Breaker Station, which is a location only accessible from riding the Happy-Go-Lucky Express, meaning no warping or anything else of the sort. However, we can befriend Illuminoct here, which is the only easy thing here. The most difficult thing in this section, and honestly one of the hardest things in this challenge, also resides here. The Lucky Crankakai. Just when you thought we couldn't escape, we have one more to secure the loss of sanity. What's neat about the Lucky Crankakai is that you can do it infinitely as long as you ride over here, so that's pretty nice. I'll explain why this is important later. Anyways, I entered Gara Gara Land only to see that it isn't running. Turns out, Signaton is supposed to be here but is still on his break. So we go to the head of the Kaibuki Theater, Kabuking, to see where he is. He lets us have access to Paradise Springs, which is cool. However, outside of his place is a chest that contains an essence of evil, which I'll explain later. We go to Paradise Springs to learn that Signaton is in Wolfit Down, but the mermaid in there makes us help her fill the baths with water in order to get the ticket there. Then, after going through the Gargoyles puzzle, I can find Signaton and get him to start up Gara Gara Land, allowing easier travel through the park. Now, the last thing that I need to do before getting tortured is one last request. We can go up to Mount Middleton to find Havryan, who wants to be a better hero. We go to the Yokai World to learn more from an SP before going to Gara Gara Land and having Havryan be trained by Very Good Sir. After all of that, he becomes Darkinyan, who we're able to befriend right after finishing his quest. And now it's time for this game's one last hurrah, to fuck me over. The Essences of Evil. Now, there are 4 different ways of getting them. For starters, that chest before that we already got is one right away. There's also 5 we can get from our quests, but we can't access them just yet, as we need to beat a boss for them, so they're off the table. Third way is through fighting a boss who we don't have access to yet, as it would end the section. The last way is through the Lucky Crankakai. It also happens to be one of the rarest items in the machine. And do you know, by chance, how many we need in total for this section? 3, 5, 6, 10. We need 10 of them. Do you see the problem here? So you just have to sit here and wait for the Happy-Go-Lucky Express to spawn over and over and over again, which is super frustrating. This is up there with Terror Time and the Infinite Tunnel as some of the hardest shit to do in the game. But after a big loss in sanity, I was finally able to acquire everything that I needed alongside some grinding for yokai later down the line to finally finish all of the fusions in the challenge. So for the fusions in this section, I can use Tublappa and the Essence of Evil to get Grublappa, Mudmunch and the Essence of Evil to get Madmunch, Smogmella and the Essence of Evil to get Batsmella, Fokappa and the Essence of Evil to get Madkappa, Palisol and the Essence of Evil to get Shamisol, Nomi and the Essence of Evil to get Nomine, Predictable and the Essence of Evil to get Defectable, Fergus and the Essence of Evil to get Feargus, Mermaiden and the Essence of Evil to get Scaremaiden, and Lady Longneck and the Essence of Evil to get Wrongneck. Can you believe that we're still not done yet? Now, we do have some requests to do in order to actually continue on with the challenge, so we're going to get those done real quick. First, we can talk to the director, who we learn is a genius filmmaker who is making a movie. We get the actors and we play the villain before being sent to Gara Land to film. Once we do, we learn that the movie was a big success, and it was just Nate's head over Gargaros's body as the monster. Nice budget, buddy. Then we can start talking to Whisper and ask about his yokai powers. He then goes to the roof with Jibanyan to say that his powers are top secret. Then, Kingen and Bronzolo appear and warp them back to the past. Specifically, they warp to feudal era Japan, which is actually really interesting. Yes, I am about to tell you some history throughout this side quest because I find it really interesting. So, the feudal era Japan spanned from the late 12th century to the late 19th century. I believe this era in-game is inspired from the Sengoku period, which is when civil wars were very frequent throughout this period. Jibanyan is back to being Rudy, and Whisper now has hair and is wearing a kimono. This area is Sawayama Castle Town, which is important for later. Also, we get to play as Whisper here, which is pretty cool. We learn of Naoto, a boy that Whisper used to inspirit. We then see Whisper barf in spirits onto Naoto and inspirit him to start lying. He's called over to the military commander, Shogun Wadington, and when I looked up info on him, I randomly found that he just... like a fucking top 3 search result page is just a Saxopedia page. What the fuck is even that? Whatever, I'm not even gonna question it. He called Naoto there because Naoto apparently knows about the illusory blade, the Slicezilla. Then they try to find it to no avail before they sense Whisper and Rudy as they begin ascending. That's only part 1 to the side quest. Trust me, we have to do this to finish this section. Whisper and Jibanyan go back to the roof only to be warped again. They go to see Wadington needing to make a choice on whether or not to retreat or keep pushing. Whisper says it's simple and Wadington hears him. Whisper says to engulf the forest in flames, and then they proceed to do just that. This lets Wadington get the victory. And then we see him afterwards, and he asks to know Whisper's name. Whisper calls himself Wispocrates, which is this form's actual name. Then Bronzo sends them back to the present, where we can do the final part to this side quest. Then Whisper and Jibanyan go back to the roof and get warped again. This time though, Wadington needs help on winning. Again. Fun fact, Wadington is supposed to be based on Ishida Mitsunari, who was the military commander of the Western Army during the Battle of Sekigahara, which was won by the Eastern Army and was then decapitated in Kyoto shortly after his loss. Also, Sawayama Castle was a real place during the Sengoku period, and was held by Ishida. After the Battle of Sekigahara, the castle was attacked and, long story short, it was demolished. But it is really interesting to know the actual history behind this stuff. Anyways, Kin, Gin, and Bronzelo appear and try to convince Wispocrates about staying in this time period, and his dumbass obliges. Wispocrates admits to Wadington about just simply being lucky, and then says that he'll confuse them for his last plan. Wadington realizes that he can't win. He's not built like that, but will try to win anyways. He ventures forwards, and then we get to finally end this really cool side quest. Now, why did we do all of this? Well, believe it or not, we still have some setup left to do. We can go to the Directator in the Kaibuki Theater to start the Tamer of Time request. Then, I can go to Mr. Stone's house to learn that he's the kid that Nathaniel was too scared to save. Sure, why not? Anyways, we get the key to go to the place that gave so many of the comments in the last video PTSD. The Infinite Inferno. Yes, we finally unlocked the Infinite Inferno. Anyways, they added a basement floor where Dame Deadtime is being held, which is called the Timeout Room. She threatens us before the Directator appears and starts shooting his documentary about Dame Deadtime. Just ignore her missing cage. Robanyan appears then and is ready to start filming. Ooh, he's gonna show us a camera. I wonder how good his camera is. Oh, okay, so solid enough camera all around. 24,000 frames per second! Anyways, we learn that Dame Deadtime was once a human who lived in a normal life and was going to get married. She was then accused of breaking a special clock and was sentenced to life in prison. She hands us a comb from that era, and then we're told that there's a Miradox there who can take us to then. We go there and, turns out, it's Sawayama Castle Town during feudal era Japan. Also, this is the only place to actually buy soba in the game. Yes, this is when you can finally get soba without having to pray you find the dude on the bike, which is ridiculous. Anyways, we see Dame Deadtime's human form, who is called Madame Otoki. Before we continue the quest though, if we fall asleep and go back to Sawayama Castle, we can find and befriend Dark Kyubi. This finishes this section with 383 yokai in a time of 196 hours and 16 minutes. Did you forget that this is a POC? I know, this video was too long and probably could be a little shorter, but you know what? This is why it took so long to come out. Anyways, we attempt to go to the timeout room only for Kinnigan and Bronzelo to appear and fight us. After beating them, Bronzelo uses what he thinks is a time stone, but it's actually a pause stone, to freeze all three of them and never make them move again. And actually, I think it is permanent. Like, they never appear in a mainline Yokai Watch game again. I don't even think they appear in blasters. That's kind of funny. We then see a replay of this footage and see footage of Mr. Senkichi, who was the man that Otoki was going to marry. Seeing this makes Dame Deadtime change to Dame Deartime, which finally finishes this massive side quest consisting of a bunch of other side quests. Then, Dame Deartime says that the wicked executives are all pieces of hatred from Dame Deadtime's heart. Also, they're in Springdale, so now we have to hunt for them. I can get Unfairy in Prayers Peak Tunnel, Unkind in Springdale Elementary, Untidy in Gourd Palm Museum, Unpleasant in Nocturne Hospital, and Unkeen in the Springdale Business Tower. I can finish this section with 389 yokai in a time of 197 hours and 17 minutes. Yeah, now we got like almost nothing left. The next thing that I need to do is a quest where I can get a signed next Harmyani photo to Casey before Jibanyan wants to move out. He finds the abandoned house and makes that his stay while we play as him for a bit, which is actually really cool. Then we see a Jibanyan go to Nate and Whisper, who fully believe that this is indeed Jibanyan. We go to Banter Bakery with the new Jibanyan and see the real Jibanyan get upset at the new Jibanyan. Oh no, it's so hard to tell who is real. Apparently it fucking is, because these buffoons choose the fake one, and Jibanyan, the real one, runs away crying. Honestly, valid. We see Jibanyan crying on the beach and Koma-san realizes it because he's the GOAT. He helps Jibanyan out later. Nate wants to get rid of the quote-unquote fake Jibanyan, so he goes over to the beach only for him to realize through the Yokai Watch's lens that the Jibanyan that he thought was real was fake all along. Yes, he is this stupid. The fake Jibanyan was a yokai named T-Stroyer, who runs all the way over to the abandoned house where we can beat him up and, in turn, he helps Vue's yokai. Now, it's not like the Shoten Temple fusions, rather, it's just an excuse to fight Jibakoma. Befriending Jibakoma lets me finish the section with 391 yokai in a time of 198 hours and 15 minutes. Now it's time for just a grind. It's time to fight all of the Infinite Inferno bosses back to back. I was going to make this just like a little section where I play music and then just beat all of them back to back, but whatever, we're just gonna speed through it. After beating Idra, Hoggles, Stixmarks the Sixth, Calypso, Dr. No-Gut, Spooklunk, Squisker, and Wobblewalk, I can get the Ghostly Goo, which is very important. Also, we get access to a new layer of this area, the Divine Paradise. Basically, it's the Infinite Inferno but with recolors of the Yokai Watch 2 bosses. Some of them at least. But we're gonna worry about that later. We head over to Lucas in Mount Wildwood, who says that he had a dream of a mirror and something from fiery hell. We go to the Guardian Mirror at the Fleshy base and put the Ghostly Goo inside of the rice cooker there to have it turn into the cutest yokai known to man, a baby Wobblewalk. I love Baby Wobblewalk, and there shall be no disrespect towards Baby Wobblewalk ever. We will shame you if you do here. Anyways, we can get Wobblewalk, which is actually the last yokai we could befriend in the game. So, I finished this section with 400 yokai in a time of 199 hours flat. Now we're done with the whole challenge, right? Well, we still have a lot of bosses left to cover. Firstly, I can go to Nocturne Hospital to help Dr. Madaman put his diary back together. He's got a sad life, really. He started working on his experiments so much as a human that when he said he was going back to work on April Fool's Day, he was going to get a gift for his wife instead. Then, when he got it and returned home, his wife left him. How sad is that, bro? Then, he spent all of his time on Hateful, who we brutally killed. Then we get the best quote in Yokai Watch history. Such a banger, dude. Then we give him his diary and he fights us for revenge. Honestly, he's got every right to do so. After beating him though, we can move on to the yokai world, where there is a battle board. After putting in Merkel, we can refight McCracken's first form yet again. Next, I want to do that stupid ass fucking Maximus Mask minigame again with Nathaniel, before we finally get to see Lucy, who is Nate's grandma as a child. Fucking finally, oh my god! We help her out with getting stuff in Old Springdale before we go to the shrine in Old Mount Wildwood to pray. After that, Infinipi appears and wants to fight. After beating probably the most unique and really cool boss in the game, we can go help Kabuki get Mochismo and Minochi to set up the Kaibuki Theater. This lets us challenge Kabuki, who is one of the hardest bosses in the game. But compared to shit like Terror Time and the Infinite Tunnel, it wasn't anything that hard. Then I can go to the boss rush to take on McCracken's second form. Now we're in the home stretch. We now have the Divine Paradise left to take down. I can beat Captain Rex, Flippa and Floppa, and Dame Dreadful before coming face to face with the hardest boss, most likely in the entire series, Cat Cradle. Honestly, she wasn't as hard as I thought she would be. To be fair, I am using Snartle, Burly, and Shogunyan to beat her. And I did do the Infinite Tunnel and Terror Time so much. But still. Now, she actually lets us fight one more boss that they just didn't want you to have the medallion till the post-game, despite being able to fight and beat him already. Orkanos. I want to explain my team a bit here while we wait for Orkanos to die, so let's go. We have the same builds for Snartle, Burly, and Shogunyan. However, the team is being used in a very different way. Snartle is the main damage dealer, even though it could have been Shogunyan, but I like Snartle more, with Elder Bloom healing and Golden Yan tanking. Golden Yan has the Stinging Stool. Stool, dude, that's the second time I made that mistake. You know what? Fuck it, we're keeping that shit in. Stinging Soul, which means that Orkanos will target him. I still ultimate stall with him while he's guarding to have the maximum effect here. Elder Bloom will heal him to full since Orkanos can't deal enough damage to knock out Golden Yan. Auntie Heart is in the back as a backup healer and also has the Soldier Soul, which makes Yokai not low. This is good because Snartle and Elder Bloom will always do an action. Also, Elder Bloom and Auntie Heart have a skill that lets them heal everyone gradually after every turn, no matter where they are on the field. Shogunyan and Burly are just here in case if anything goes wrong. And that's the team. After all of that, I can finally register Orkanos into the medallion in his boss form. I can also say that I finished this challenge with a grand total of 411 yokai in a final time of 202 hours and 12 minutes. I have finally finished the Yokai Watch 2 Psychic Spectres Professor Oak's challenge. So, that's the run. Before I give thanks and all, I want to show that what yokai aren't available in the challenge, as I can't get them otherwise. For starters, Pantanoko isn't obtainable since he is gotten through Street Pass and that isn't allowed. Next, there are the Selecticon yokai that we couldn't get at the start, those being Rough Wrath, his evolution Bad Dude, Tattletale, and her evolution of Tattlecast, which means we couldn't get Dandoodle due to him requiring these two. Then, we couldn't get Maximus K due to playing as Nate and not Katie. The next one we couldn't get is Thornyon, since we chose Rough Wrath as being spikier. Yeah, sure. Then we couldn't fight Hinozal due to the Blaster's restriction. So those are all of the yokai that were decision/online based that I could have gotten in this save, but chose different decisions/couldn't use online instead. But now are the version exclusives. I'm just going to list literally all of them, which is time consuming. Also, I was told to make a section in the video at some point, a song, so I guess we can make this a song-ish part? I don't know, let's roll. I couldn't get Face Off, Phalian, QB, What You Got, Pride Shrimp, No Go Kart, Miss Tank, Zapparate, Frazzle, Total Dude, Boyclops, Wide Awake, All Nighter, Herbaboy, Cardaboy, Count Zapaway, Slimamander, Arachnus, Irewig, Firewig, Espy Snaggerjag, Venant, Jibanyan S, and Komasan S. Whew! That's a lot. But we still have more. For starters, we have the version exclusive bosses Rubius J and Hardy Hound. Then, we have the legendaries Komashura and Professor, since they require version exclusives to unlock. And so, that's all the yokai that I couldn't get. I'm still surprised that I actually finished this challenge, as Devour was the main roadblock of the whole run. I would not recommend this to you at all, unlike the first game. If you want to do a Professor Oak's challenge in a Yokai Watch game, just play the first game. That's so much fun. Just do 1 instead of 2. Just trust me, it's more fun. I just want to give a huge shout out to my community for sticking with me while I was struggling through this challenge. This was definitely the most mind-numbing challenge that I have ever done. To be fair, I haven't done much, but still. Next, I want to thank literally all of the artists that I listened to while I was doing this challenge. They make bangers and I love listening to music, so that's very useful there. Next, I want to thank Johnstone and Chaotic Beatball for getting me into the Professor Oak's challenges. Again, huge help there. I want to thank Horn of Plenty and Devourer for making this challenge take way too long. Lastly, I want to thank the guy who came up with the idea to add exclusives to Terror Time for making me lose my mind alongside the Infinite Tunnel. And that's it. Thank you all so much for watching the hardest video that I've ever made. Jesus Christ, I never want to do this again. I'm doing this again. I'm probably doing either Blasters 3 next. And I will see you all later. Peace.